So I have been pondering on this question for a while, and I've asked friends, I've asked people that have been walking in the faith, especially people that have said like they've heard from God. And I often wondered what they meant. And sometimes I would ask, like, what is it? Like, what do you mean you hear from God? Like, God speaking to you. And of course, you get different answers. Like, some people have told me, like, God speaks to me audibly. And I hear God tell me exactly what to do. I hear God for me, and I hear God for other people. And then some people have told me that is more like an unction and a conviction or a guiding that happens, and that's how they hear God. And then you have the other side that just says that I hear God through his word, that he's already spoken, and that's his word, and that's how you hear from God. Like, if you're looking for something, he's giving you the word of God. Therefore, read the word of God and you can get a word. And I would like to say that I fall on the all three platforms. And I'm pretty sure there's more than three platforms, but for the sake of this video, there's three platforms. There's those that hear from God with a audible voice. There's those that hear from God through a conviction, a unction, a leading, and then there's those who hear from God from the word of God. And for me, I say all three exist and always have for me because I've seen all three in my own life. But the issue I have is I don't hear from God on a regular basis. And that's not to say that I don't believe God isn't leading me. Like, he's leading me, he's guiding me, he's directing me. And I truly believe God is doing that. And although I may not actually hear the audible voice of God, I definitely probably lean more towards the conviction or unction. But even though sometimes, like, I'm like, is this my conviction or is this my own unction? Or is this truly the Lord leading me? And then, of course, the Lord leads me through the word of God. But I've been convicted on, like, my sheep know my voice. And I believe the Bible is very intentional about what it's saying. And for the Bible to say, and Jesus to say, my sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not listen to, that lets me know that there's multiple voices talking. And it's so funny how we give cadence to the enemy and we say, like, oh, the devil did it, or the devil intervened, or however that happens, like he was possessed or enticed by the devil. But then yet when it comes to God, we may have the same notion that God made me do it, but it's not necessarily as high potency as the devil made me do it. And I definitely believe that the Lord is speaking. So for me, I decided, let me go on this task to dive into some books, to dive into some material, to actually go on this journey to hear God's voice. And I said, man, I probably should invite people in to do this with me. So one, if you're in my boat, if you're sitting where I'm sitting and you like, man, I believe God and I believe God speaks, but I just don't know how he speaks, then I want you to take this journey with me. And the book that I decided to pick up first is The Four Keys to Hearing God's Voice by Mark Vickler. And don't quote me on the last name. I like to say, like, I did graduate high school, I did graduate college, I have certificates and all those things, but reading and writing is not my strong suit. I want it to be so bad, but it's just not my strong suit. Or I can read, I should say spelling is not my strong suit. So sometimes that's neither here nor there. His name is Mark Vickler. His Four Keys to Hearing God's Voice is what you need to focus on, by Mark Vickler. And you can pronounce it however you see fit. But I really decided that I wanted to get into this book and I wanted to dive into really hearing from God. And my goal is hearing from God on a more consistent basis. I have heard from God, and there is nobody in this world that can convince me otherwise that I heard from God. And more than that, once I obeyed what God said, I seen the hand of God continue to guide me in my life. So there's been no doubt that that was the voice of God. I've also heard people tell me, like, hey, God told me to share this with you. And in those cases, I received a word from God that I felt was very valid. I followed that word, and once again, the hand of God continued to show up in my life and guide me. On the contrary, there have been times that I thought I was hearing from God. And there's been times where I thought somebody that was saying they were serving for God was correct. And later on, I believed them not to be correct. So, what I will say is that I lean mostly on the word of God. And even if somebody give me a word from God, I then have to hold it up towards the Bible and say, does it agree with the word of God? So yeah, you have a word from God. Let me hear it. I'm not a stickler to say that prophecy doesn't exist and that God doesn't speak. Like, I'm truly believing that God still speaks and he still moves. I've seen it. So you have a word from God. Okay, cool. I will take that word from God. But please believe me when I say I'm going to weigh it against the word of God. And if it does not agree with the word of God, then I'm going to have to say this is not a word from God. This is not of God. So I'm not going to take this as true. So I have to dismiss that word. And I want to be harsh and say you're a false prophet, but maybe you really believe what you were believing and today you're off. So I don't want to label people that. I think false prophets are those who actually teach a word of God that isn't true. It makes the whole dichotomy a little testy because it's really like, man, is this truly a thing? Like, is it valid to believe that God still speaks and that he's speaking to people? And I feel like that's the journey that I want to walk on. So I have a couple of books. I have one on prophecy. I have one on hearing the voice of God. And then I got another one on just the Rhema word of God. And I'm going to go through these books. I won't be going by chapter, but I do want to walk through this journey on hearing the voice of God. And then I'm hoping, like, as I do these videos on hearing the voice of God, that there is a place where I can come back and tell you guys, like, hey, I'm hearing from God and I'm hearing from God on a more consistent basis. And then I hope that you would take this journey with me, that you guys will share, put in the comments, put your thoughts, your feelings, and also give me insight to share. Like, hey, I took that journey too. I picked up a book. I picked up a couple books. I picked up the book you suggested, and I've been hearing from God on a more frequent basis, or I'm struggling, whatever the case may be. It's like, man, I just want to share that in community because I truly want to hear from God more than anything. So with that, I'll say I'm excited to go on this journey with you guys. And then I also want to say, I do believe that the main thing that God is speaking through is the Bible. And I believe that is the most potent thing to say, what do God think of this situation? What is God saying? And he said a lot in the written word of God. And yet I believe there's so much to be had from actually the relationship and the verbal or the unction of God in our lives. So I just think, what better way than to couple those two? What better way to say, hey, I'm going to devour this word, but I'm also looking for a word, a right now word from God as well. So I'm excited to go on this journey with you guys. Please like, comment, share. Let's get into it together, man.